Okay, so before we get into this week's episode, we are using a new program to do our voice chat for the podcast. And in that software, we can do text to speech. And Brad was using that functionality a lot during this episode, especially at the beginning. So if you hear us referring to our friend Stephen Hawking, it's because we could hear a text to speech that you guys cannot. So if there are a bunch of pauses, that is where would have been audio, but there's not. Why, I do not know. We could hear it. I thought it was being picked up in our software, but it was not. So just a little background before we get into it. Just in case you're wondering, wow, there's a lot of weird, awkward pauses. That's what's going on. But putting that aside, let's get into the episode. This week on DRC, we take a look at what the professional meta is looking like at the moment. And Bradford Lee has some bold claims of what the future of the standard format may look like. All that and more, DRC starts right now.
You're listening to the Death Rattle Crew, a Hearthstone podcast.
DRC, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Death Rattle Crew, the Hearthstone podcast. This is episode 78, and that was Stephen Hawking. I am one of your hosts, other hosts, Mike Tactu Hearn, joined by Mr. Bradford Lee. Don't forget, I'm great, Stephen Hawking.
What's up, Mike?
He's giving you away. So you're typing to Stephen Hawking, who's saying that you said this.
He's translating, yes.
Are we having issues? Is he the intermediary? What is that word? Intermediate.
Intermediate? You mean middleman?
Yes, thank you. We'll go. Okay, good.
Okay, I'll stop messing with this.
Don't forget, you can find us at www.deathrattlecrew.com. You can find Stephen Hawking at stephenhawking.com. I actually don't know if that's true. Don't quote me on that. Bradford Lee, where can people find you?
Twitch.tv/Bradford Lee.
So, a little backstory. Last week, if you listen to the audio-only format version, or actually even the video format, we had severe audio issues that we had 2 or 3 weeks before that as well. Last week wasn't as bad. We finally have the culprit. It is Skype. Microsoft, get your together, because it's awful. So we're trying.
There we go.
Perfect.
Stephen Hawking is going to solve the problem.
He's here to help us.
We have a solution.
So we're trying out a couple different things, and I gotta say, props to Discord. I haven't used it. I know you've used it. Holy crap!
Yeah, I've been like poking and prodding him, and like we got to record through Discord.
Discord is legit.
Yeah. Ironically, we're not actually recording through Discord right now. We're hanging out in Google Hangouts today.
Yeah, with some issues with feedback, and I'll get it figured out. I'll probably have to buy some new hardware, but we will get it figured out. But after that, how's your week been? What's going on?
Pretty good. I spent all of Monday, like literally like 20 hours almost, getting my deck list figured out for the Hearthstone Championship Tour, which is this weekend for Americas. So I've been kind of just playing an insane amount of Hearthstone over the last week. Much more than I would normally do, like to the point where it's almost unsafe. Like I should go outside and I should go running more this week. Like I need to take breaks more and just like stop and like go smell the roses or something. What have you been up to, Mike? What's new in the world of Mike Tactu Hearn?
Well, I got to be honest. Hearthstone, I have not played a lot this week. I'm just gonna be honest. Mm-hmm. So I'm interested to hear what you've got to talk about this week. Other than work, I talked about it last week. No Man's Sky came out.
Yeah.
I got that.
I've heard terrible reviews.
Yes. So I won't talk about it too long.
Yep.
All I'm going to say is I knew what to expect when as far as gameplay goes, I knew it was going to be exploration. I didn't think there was going to be multiplayer. Once I saw that people could pause the game, I was like, okay, well, that doesn't work with multiplayer. That's not how the servers and all that work. So I was okay with that. What I was not okay with because I got it on PC through Steam, the PC controls are horrible.
Oh, really?
So what it looks like they did was Sony said, here's some money, make us first, and then deal with the crazy PC people.
So like the controller version is much more fluid.
Yeah, so I stopped after about 6 hours. I just gave up on the keyboard and mouse. On foot, it's fine, but in a ship, it is garbage. And for a space sim, spaceship. You're gonna spend half the time in a spaceship. I have plugged in like a wired Xbox 360 controller, and it's better. But mouse and keyboard sucks. No HOTAS support, hands-on throttle and stick, HOTAS. Thank you. Hello Games, like I'm not
gonna buy it. I already knew that after day one, when everyone was like, it's actually not multiplayer. I was just like, okay,
yeah,
we're good here.
I've read a lot of like reviews to say, why do some survival games work? And this one obviously doesn't, and it just came down to multiplayer. Minecraft has multiplayer, DayZ has multiplayer, Rust has multiplayer, and this one doesn't. And the controls are just
H1Z fun.
Yeah, H1Z, yeah. It's just disappointing. Like they put the console version first, and PC got kind of screwed.
Yeah.
And yeah, there were serious computer issues. I know a lot of people actually couldn't even get it to launch. So
the name of it is No Man's Buy,
or some people call it One Man's Lie.
One Man's Lie. Oh, the puns are real.
Yeah, I feel bad for Sean Murray. I feel a little bad for him. I know. Looking back now at like interviews and stuff, there were some things where he said, "Yeah, there will be multiplayer," but obviously it didn't come true. And that some of these things were like a year ago. But I could tell that he's like, "Wow, these people are really overhyping this game." But do you say, "Hey, my game is not that good. Please don't overhype it"?
No, you just let it ride,
right?
And then you make a good video game afterwards because you got the money now,
right? So it's a little disappointing. Now I've played it and I've got like 8 hours, 10 hours into it. And when I switch to a controller, it's fun. This isn't the game where you're going to spend like 300 hours in it and be like, wow, there's still so much to do.
Yeah.
It's fun for what it is. It is not worth $60. It is worth 30 tops, I think.
Yeah.
But that's
me, it's worth $0.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I couldn't give it to you.
I don't even want it. I literally wouldn't play it. They told me it wasn't multiplayer. That like defeats my gaming purpose nowadays. Like barring Pokemon Go, which is even theoretically multiplayer. Like I don't play a non-multiplayer game anymore. I take that back. I play multiplayer Into the Gungeon with my roommate. So no, there's none.
Yeah. So it's cool idea.
I guess I'm playing Fallout 3. Okay, never mind. I lied.
Okay,
cool idea.
That's good. Yeah.
Terrible execution.
I think I've read an interview with someone said, hey, what if we take this instead of having a whole universe, we just make one continent or land and make a Skyrim that's basically procedurally generated. That would be sweet. Now, what it requires is content, which is what this game does not have. And it's weird to say that when it would take you billions of years to visit everything, but there's no real story other than one small short storyline. That's it. And it's really just, hey, here's this random thing, follow it and go to the center. There's the story.
Yeah.
That's it. So I'm not saying, hey, they screwed up and I can't imagine doing this and then putting content in. I don't know how you would do it with 18 quintillion planets, how you'd make that happen. But I think the future looks good. If we can do this, if we can improve on this, gaming is in good hands. So
interesting.
It's not all bad. I think there's some good from this.
Yeah, there's something that develops from it.
Yeah. So that's just that, and I'm looking forward to WoW launching, the new Legion launching.
Legion comes out very, very soon, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We don't have Mushu here to like hype
I know
about.
Yeah.
So he's the hype train when it comes to WoW.
Oh yeah. So I'm not going to talk about other than that. Other than I'm just excited for it. So.
Well, there is a lot to talk about this week, Mike. Too.
Yes.
So we probably shouldn't talk too much about other things because.
Perfect.
This morning, deck lists got released for Hearthstone Championship Tour. So there's a lot to talk about in relation to that. I'm also going to talk about hopefully my deck lists, what I'm playing. So we got a ton to talk about.
Perfect. All right. Well, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back with Meta DRC would like to thank Brainiacs for their support of this podcast. If you have a tech idea for improving your business's workflow, Brainiacs can provide a turnkey solution to specifically fit your needs. You can contact them at www.brainiux.com. And welcome back. This is Meta Anatomy, your one weekly stop for everything meta in Hearthstone. I'm Tac2, joined by Bradford Lee and Stephen Hawking. Bradford Lee. What's going on? We have a lot to talk about. Deck lists.
We have a lot to talk about today.
Yes.
So America Championships deck lists were released this morning, about 4 or 5 hours ago. A lot of people are reviewing it, going over it, kind of checking out what people are taking in their lineups, what that means, and then what that entails for players that are in the tournament and for viewers who are viewing the tournament itself. Before we go over everything, I'd like to talk about my particular lineup. I'm not going to go into heavy detail about it. That's why I want to start with that, because it's not one that I'm going to focus on necessarily, because I don't want to like divulge all my secrets necessarily. But I ended up settling on not the broke back lineup, which everyone's naming it, which is the broke back lineup. If you did not know this, is what do you think it is, Mike? Take a guess. What deck would be in the best 4 decks lineup? I'm pretty sure you'd know.
What deck would
I know
be
you
the
have
best?
you been following the tournament scene much? I don't know you haven't been following it super much as of recent though.
No, not as recent. I'm gonna say Warrior.
Yeah, Warrior's in there for sure.
Yeah, okay.
So the Dragon Warrior deck is definitely there. Right. That's arguably the best deck for that lineup, and the not only that, but that lineup generally bans Warrior. So interesting that. Obviously, that's going to be in that lineup. The other ones are like, your typical Zoo aggro deck.
Right.
You've got the Brokeback Yogg Druid deck, which
that was my third
is
guess.
just incredibly hard to play against, like combat it in a way. Like you can't target it very effectively.
Would 4 be Mage?
No, 4 is the aggro Shaman deck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So those are arguably like, as of a week ago, considered the best decks. And we saw this in the EU tournament. Like a vast majority of people were taking that particular lineup as well. Like, and so the people that had success were one of two people. Either the people playing that lineup, which while there were only a couple of them that played that lineup that made top 8 as compared to the amount that actually played the lineup. So their actual success rate was relatively low as compared to the whole. But the lineups that had the most success were the ones that were able to target that lineup very effectively. And we saw that with things like George C was playing a Freeze Mage deck. There were a bunch of people playing Freeze Mage. There was also people were playing Crusher Shaman. Do you remember? Do you even remember?
Yes.
Do you know what Crusher Shaman is?
Oh,
right?
yeah,
that's
dude.
That's
back. I love that. That's back?
Yeah. So the reason that people are playing it in the tournament setting, I mean, for whatever reason, people are playing on a ladder now too, but it's, in my opinion, not one of the best ladder decks ever, because it's kind of inconsistent on ladder because there's some really bad matchups and some really good matchups. So it's kind of like very, very split. Actually it was Frodin that kind of repopularized the deck by taking it to Seat Story a little while ago and being really successful with it, because it can target the Brokeback lineup very effectively. So that lineup gets a little bit punished by it. And so you're seeing some people running the Crusher Shaman decks with Freeze Mage, with the Inzoth Paladin deck. I mean, we're going back to the beginning of the previous format is kind of where it's at right now, because those decks combat what the majority of people are playing, because since it's a solved format, we know what the best decks are, and the people that are playing the best deck make up the majority. So what the people that are trying to operate at N+1 or N+2, that is to say that they're trying to counter what's happening for the whole, those are the people that are playing things like Crusher Shaman, Freeze Mage, Inzoth Paladin, and Control Warrior or something like that. That might be their lineup. In fact, I know there are multiple people that are on that lineup. So the Americas is going to be a lot more interesting of a tournament to check out than the EU one. The EU one was a lot of like those 4 decks jamming the Brokeback lineup, just jamming itself against each other and not one knocking the other one out. And then just finally, eventually we got some different, more diverse decks that finished and kind of like weeded themselves to the top because, well, they were better against those 4 particular matchups and they played that probably every single time. So they had a good chance to move themselves to the top. Okay, so that all being said, I'm not playing the Brokeback lineup, but I am playing the classes of Warrior, Warlock, Shaman, and Druid, which it makes up the Brokeback lineup. So my lineup, though, is much different compared to what everybody else is playing for the most part. I'm playing a Control Warrior deck with Yogg-Saron, because we all know how much I love Yogg-Saron. Just absolutely love Yogg-Saron. It's such a dynamic card that has no RNG and just really offers the competitive player always to feel good when it plays it rather than having downsides and being random entirely, obviously.
Yeah.
So I'm playing Yogg-Saron in my deck because of that, clearly. No, really, I'm just playing it because it's stupidly brokenly good. Like, I'm just going to run it because my lineup can support it. My Control Warrior deck can support it. So I'm basically playing just a pure Control Warrior shell that has Yogg-Saron. It also has like Baron Geddon. I'm running a Cleave. Do you even remember that? Does anyone even know what that card is?
Right.
Have you ever played Cleave? Do you even know what Cleave is, Mike? I doubt it.
Back in the day, I played it. Yes.
Okay, sure. So Cleave is a 2-mana spell that says do 2 damage to 2 targets.
Right.
So you have to have 2 targets to even cast it.
Right.
So it's really restricted, but the card is really, really good at combating like Zoo, for instance, and to a lesser extent, Shaman, it's pretty decent against. It's okay against token strategies to some extent. Like, so there is some utility to the card and the reason why I'm running it. But anyway, so I'm running that kind of a shell as my Control Warrior shell. I'm running the Brokeback Yogg deck because it's just really, really good and it fits into a lot of lineups. So it fits really solid here. And it's really hard for anyone to target Druid. So I don't think I get punished by playing it. So that's the reason I'm running that particular deck. I'm running a mid-range Shaman deck, which I should talk about that last. Let's talk about the other deck. I'm running Combo Rhinolock, which is a deck list that I've played before in tournaments and one that I personally like a lot. I'm kind of surprised that it's kind of fallen out of favor a little bit. I understand because like it has a lot of bad matchups, but the reason I like it a lot here is because I expect people to be playing that Crusher Shaman, Inzoth type build, Inzoth Paladin, Control Warrior, and Freeze Mage type builds, which I think it has a slightly better circumstances compared to Zoo, and so I wanted to potentially take that. My other option was to take Freeze Mage in that slot instead of taking Warlock, but in the end, I just decided that I was going to be better suited if I took the Rhinolock. But the most important factor here, and the card that I'm going to speak heavily and just praise here, is in this Shaman deck that I'm playing. So I'm playing mid-range Shaman, and I'm playing 0/7/7s for 4. So no facelesses. No, I'm not playing that card. And the reason is because instead I'm playing a build that runs 2 Maelstrom Portals. Maelstrom Portal is the new card that came out in Wing number 1 of the new set. It is 2 mana. It's a portal. Does 1 damage to everything, and it summons a random 1-cost minion. So effectively, it's a 2/1 for 2 mana that does 1 damage to everything. It's almost like Ravaging Ghoul. It's not quite as good as Ravaging Ghoul because of the class that it's in necessarily, but it also has its own upside in that it does 2 damage to things with the spell damage totem. So 25% of the time after turn 4, it's going to do 2 damage. So it has a lot of utility, and I'm running 2 of them specifically because it's really, really good at flipping the Zoo matchup from being an unfavorable matchup to a very favorable matchup. So it allows me to target Zoo a little bit more effectively. And actually, the other person that I had worked with on this deck list with was Immortal Lion, and he's playing a slightly different variant that has only 1 Maelstrom Portal. But nonetheless, he's playing that deck, and he was at top 10 in Legend with this deck list. So
wow,
it's very strong. This is a deck list that this week will be very strong. And if Barnes and like all these other decks coming out that potentially are going to be in the format don't push this deck out, then this deck might be around for quite some time. And I'm a big proponent of mid-range Shaman right now as a deck on ladder, as a deck in tournaments, as a deck in general. And I think Maelstrom Portal gives it some very, very, very powerful effects to have access to, and it just really shores up some of its weak points as a deck. And now I think it's one of those decks that's 50% across the board, and you can, if you play effectively with this deck and you know all your matchups and you learn this deck, you can get to Legend with this deck for sure. This deck's very good. This is I built my entire lineup around this deck to give you perspective.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I think I'm like I'm super high on this deck right now. Like I'm a big proponent for it right now. So yeah, I just wanted to point out that I think mid-range Shaman with Maelstrom Portal is really good. Yeah, again, a shout out to Mortal Lion who kind of got me on to playing mid-range Shaman potentially at first. And not only that, but like I was even saying in our set review and in different times that I've been talking about cards from the new set that I think Maelstrom Portal was one of the most powerful cards out of the whole entire set.
Right.
And I really feel like I can because I found a shell for it, I really feel like this card has a lot of potential to be one of the best cards out of the set. And once Spirit Claws gets released, I really think this deck potentially even gets more powerful. And there's potentially ways to build the deck to be insanely powerful and control the board very effectively. So again, it's just something to consider is that mid-range Shaman has a lot of utility right now and can really just punish a lot of decks because of Maelstrom Portal. And as well, on top of that, it still has good matchups against almost every deck across the board. Yeah, just, I don't know. I can't say any more about it besides the fact that I'm just praising the deck and it's fantastic.
That's awesome.
So that is my lineup. That being said, there is a lot of other people playing this tournament. I believe it's like 150 other people, and I have their deck lists in front of me. I'm not going to publicly share them as I know it's not my thing to do necessarily. I know it's not. These are. I'm not even sure if it's allowed to be shared. But basically, I can run through what we are expecting as a whole. I haven't had a chance to sit down and go through everybody's lineup, but some standout potential lineups that come to my mind are, first off, the Brokeback lineup, which still makes up, in my opinion, the majority of what people are playing. It's not necessarily that they're playing, or not necessarily that they're playing all four of the Brokeback lineup, which is like Aggro Shaman, Zoo, Yogg Druid, and Dragon Warrior, or just Warrior in general, really. But a lot of them are playing something very similar. So, for instance, I'm looking right now at Amnesiac's lineup, and he's playing he's not. He's on a different build. He's only playing one of the 5 or 4, which is kind of interesting because he's on a different circumstance. He's actually on Aggro Shaman, Rogue, Freeze Mage, and Cthulhu Warrior. And one of the things that so that he's on something different, but like a lot of people are still on that kind of like just straight play the best 4 decks kind of strategy. That being said, I think that it's worth noting that a lot more people are playing Mage to this weekend. A lot of people are going to be playing Freeze Mage because Freeze Mage saw a lot of success in the last one, and it was in the EU prelims last weekend, and it was an overperformer. On top of that, it allows you to ban Warrior very effectively, which is already a solid strategy, and it fits into a lot of different type of lineups. A pure control lineup fits Freeze Mage. You can fit Freeze Mage into a lineup that's trying to punish Zoo. You can fit Freeze Mage into a lineup that's just the Brokeback decks minus one of them, and you can play Freeze Mage instead. So there's a lot of spots for that deck to fit in. Additionally, there are some people that are playing a sort of aggro tempo mage list, and I'll run through it real quick. I'm going to find Noblord's list really quickly because he was the person that I played against on ladder yesterday after we'd submitted our decks, and I ran into him, and he and I talked, like we're both testing our decks, and we kind of jammed it against each other. But one of the more interesting decks, in my opinion, is this sort of tempo aggro deck that's kind of come to fruition with Firelens Portal, which is another one of the newer cards. So we'll run through this real quick. He's running 2 Arcane Blast, 2 Arcane Missiles, Mana Worm, 2 Mirror Images. And those are your common early removal spells and 1-drops, and it's a typical tempo mage style deck. And then at the 2 slot, there's 2 Cultist Sorcerers, 2 Sorcerer's Apprentices, and 1 Blood Mage Thalnos. And those all fit relatively well with this kind of deck so far. And so it seems pretty standard in stock thus far. And with the 2 Frostbolts as well. But then when you start getting the 3 slot, it starts getting a little bit more interesting as he's running 2 Acolyte of Pains. So if the purpose of the 2 Acolyte of Pains in this build is he's trying to cycle through his deck a little bit more effectively than your typical, like, more top-end tempo mage deck that we've been seeing as of recent. This is going more back to like the the earlier builds where it's more low end, but he also has Acolytes of Pains to cycle. There's also 2 Arcane Intellects to cycle through his deck as quickly as possible. And then, of course, the 2 Flame Wakers, 2 Forgotten Torch, and 2 Fireball. So that's your like burn package right there. But then you add in 2 Azure Drakes to keep cycling, and now that they have Firelens Portal, they can just have a flurry of burn towards your face. I was playing a Control Warrior deck against Nobbler on ladder, and I had gotten a turn 6 Justicar True Heart out. I had gained a bunch of life, and he still almost burned me out. Like, I was down to like a point where I was like, well, if he top decks Fireball, I lose, you know. And so even in the point where like I could gain so much health, he still could just keep burning me. So the deck has a lot of resiliency and a lot of things going with it. And then, of course, at the very top end of the deck, he's running still just Yogg-Saron because, well, Yogg-Saron, stupidly good.
Yeah, right.
But that's an interesting list because it's like a faster, more tempo-oriented tempo list.
Yeah.
Which I'm really like. I really like the fact that we're seeing that happening a little bit. There are a couple other different really interesting lineups. I'm gonna actually pull up Dog's lineup really quickly because I know he's on that lineup. I know there's a bunch of people on this lineup, but one of the other more interesting lineups is, you know, they're running the Brokeback Druid deck because that deck is very good. Like the Yogg Druid deck.
Mm-hmm.
They're running the Inzoth Paladin list. Some running Inifin Paladin, some running Inzoth Paladin, and some running Inzoth Inifin Paladin. But for the most part, it seems like most of the people that are playing that deck are running just straight Inzoth Paladin. And they have access to Ivory Knight in this build. So they're now that's another new card. So they're able to slip in an Ivory Knight, maybe 2 if some are getting a little more greedy with their builds. But that gives them a little bit more longevity and a little more healing and a little more redundancy with their consecrations, their equalities. They're the spells that they want to hit, basically. So it's kind of interesting that deck list is kind of floating around. It's good. It's a good control lineup card or deck. And as you're going to see as we keep going through this lineup, it is a control lineup. The other deck that he's playing is the Crusher Shaman deck that we talked about before. And I think it was a really smart choice on him to run Ragnaros the Firelord. I actually think Ragnaros the Firelord might be the standout card in this particular tournament because of how much Freeze Mage will be floating around. And then last but not least, he is running I believe it's a Cycle Thune. Yeah, so basically like just a warrior deck. And in his case, the Cycle Cthulhu deck versus just like a typical Cthulhu deck. But that kind of lineup we're going to see a lot of as well. I think that lineup has shown to be a little bit more successful than maybe was initially thought with the EU tournament last weekend. And it also combats the 4, you know, like the Brokeback lineup pretty effectively. So that's basically everything there. The other things I want to note is some really interesting deck lists that we don't really see very much as of recent. For instance, Keo, who I was going to test with originally, but it ended up kind of falling through, is running the Freeze Mage, Reno Freeze Mage specifically deck. And he's not on the Mali Reno Freeze Mage. He's just on the pure Reno Freeze Mage deck. And I think that's because it gives him a slight edge in the mirror, as well as having the potential to burst for 30 to beat these Inzoth Paladin lists that I would assume he thought was going to be more prevalent. And it is more prevalent. So it's a way for them to create 30 points of damage in one turn with a build. So it's interesting that this deck is seeing some play now all of a sudden. And it's kind of cool to see that this deck come back because we haven't really seen the Freeze Reno decks be popular or even successful since basically DreamHack Austin, which was the first tournament of the last format. So it looks like the whole format has come full circle and we're back to like this slightly unknown format with a slightly grindier deck construction ideas behind what people are doing for the most part. So yeah. But yeah, the biggest thing again is you're going to see the Brokeback lineup a bunch. You'll probably see a bunch of Freeze Mage, and that's the biggest factor here. And honestly, I'm really surprised on the amount of Freeze Mage there is, and I keep going through deck lists and just seeing more and more and more Freeze Mage. So I just think it's something that you guys are going to see this weekend, and it might even be a major player in the format as we move forward because of some other cards getting released and just its positioning in the tournament format as a whole.
Interesting.
Yeah, for sure. There was one other deck list I really wanted to talk about, but I don't remember whose it was now, so I don't even want to go into details specifically about it. Yeah, I don't really want to go into details specifically about it. So for all of you that do not know, since we are talking about this tournament format still, there is the tournament format is a conquest format for Hearthstone Championship Tour. It will be this weekend. It'll be on Twitch at Twitch. It'll probably be on the front page of Twitch, honestly. But it'll be on the Play Hearthstone Twitch account. So twitch.tv/Play Hearthstone. And it's basically the top 128 players in the North American region will be playing this weekend. Last weekend was EU, and next weekend will be Asia Pacific region, and then it'll go from there. That being said, there is the basically what happens is it's a 2-day tournament. So, it's technically a 3-day tournament, because what they do is people who didn't qualify on Friday will play in a qualifying tournament. So there is a couple people who qualify for this qualifying tournament and will play through it. For instance, there's some really big names like Keo, Chandyland, the Rat is in it. Those are the people that I can think of off the top of my head that are pretty big players that didn't quite even qualify for this tournament, are going to have to battle their way through the qualifier to even get to the point of qualifying. So it's a pretty tough field for the whole, and everybody who's in this tournament is very, very competent at the game. So it's a really this is the tournament that I think really is going to define the first week meta and potentially shape the meta for the future. Now, obviously, the Asia Pacific one is going to be more impactful in the long term, because it's when we see Wing 2 of the new set coming out, and that's going to be a little bit more, I guess, important to the long term of the new set with the new adventure coming out. And then day 2 and day 3 are the major portions of the tournament. So definitely worth checking out. I suggest checking out, because it's in my opinion, the Americas is, and really all the regions are really important. But this tournament series is, I think, one of the better representations of good players in the game, as well as it's a good representation of like where the format is at a whole. For people to be able to start just kind of like messing around with new decks in the upcoming weeks. So
nice.
That's the whole tournament kind of rundown. Next week, we'll obviously have a lot more to talk about when it comes to that. I guess we could quickly run through the EU one if we wanted to.
Yeah.
I actually don't have everybody's deck list for that okay. available. But the one of the things that was most interesting to me was, and I'm actually going to look at their deck list real quick, was George C's lineup. That was the kind of the lineup that there was a couple other people on this. Zixo's lineup was also really interesting. But let's quickly run through what George C was playing last weekend. George C was basically on this kind of control lineup that I was saying is going to be a little bit more prevalent this weekend. He was on the Crusher Shaman or Concede Shaman deck, the Cthulhu, just a heavy Cthulhu deck, like just Sogoth, the Slitherer in his deck, like just a lot of big things, and then he was running, Yogg Druid, because Yogg Druid's Yogg Druid, and it's really good, and you never want to play it. And then he was playing Freeze Mage as well. So this was this control lineup that has kind of become popularized because he saw success, as well as a couple other players saw success. For instance, Zixo saw a lot of success with this particular lineup. And I will pull up, maybe not the particular lineup, but with a control lineup. His lineup was, and Zixo's lineup was actually really interesting as well. He was running the Yogg Druid deck. He was running an Inzoth Inifin Paladin deck, pretty stock Inzoth Inifin Paladin list. The Cthulhu Warrior, and then he also was running Reno Lock as his 4th deck instead of Freeze Mage. So again, just interesting, and it was a Cthulhu Reno, by the way. But just interesting that the control lineups have had a lot of success in this particular tournament format. And that's the next thing I wanted to talk about quickly. They having this level of success as a control deck in a tournament format is not very common right now. And the reason is because you don't generally know deck lists, right? You don't know what your opponent's going to be on necessarily. But in this particular format, deck lists are revealed before the tournament. And so everybody has access to everybody else's deck list. So you can make bans accordingly as a control deck and recognize where your control decks line up in relations to what your opponent's playing. So it kind of offers this sort of flex banning strategy. And I've talked about this on the podcast before. Mm-hmm. And I'm a big proponent of this particular conquest format where the decks are known. I think it adds a level of dynamics to it. And again, I think it opens up control lineups to have a little more success. And that's maybe one of the reasons why people are moving into playing more control. So yeah, that's the whole entire rundown of the tournament series right now.
Nice.
And where it's at with the Hearthstone Championship Tour. I suggest tuning in. That's all I got to say about that.
Sweet. So are you excited about it?
What's that?
Are you excited about it?
I'm not excited to travel, but I'm excited to compete. It's always fun to compete in those kind of things.
Right.
Yeah. I'm going to have to travel like 5.5 hours to go to one of the satellite locations where the tournament's being held. So yeah.
That's kind of brutal.
Yeah, it is kind of brutal. It's not super bad, but like as coming from a Magic background, like I'm used to that kind of travel for tournaments mentality. So it doesn't feel terrible to me, but like it's just kind of unfortunate that I have to travel. I understand why you have to travel. You have to travel because well, they're trying to create a production level event where they want, like good lighting, they want good internet connection. They don't want the chance for people to be cheating from sitting from their home or something. Because this is a high stakes tournament with a lot on the line. Like for instance, you make $5,000 for making top 8. So like this is the equivalency of a Magic Pro Tour if you've played Magic before.
Right.
It's just really it's a high level event for sure.
Man.
Yeah. So I'm excited for that part of it. Mike, the other thing I want to talk with you about this week, cards coming out this next week,
right? And
how and how they might impact the format as a whole. So,
what do you think?
Last week we saw, and I can't praise this card more, Maelstrom Portal. We saw Maelstrom Portal, and we saw a bunch of just kind of mediocre, it feels like, cards. Is there any card that stands out to you from this last week, really, besides that?
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. How about you?
Okay. Yeah, I'm
thinking here.
The only other one that stands out is the other portal, the mage one to me, but even that's not like as a defining of a card in my opinion.
I remember we talked about I like that card. I know that.
Yeah, a card's fine. And it's going to see play. The card's strong.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And to a lesser extent, I guess Enchanted Raven maybe from the last set is potentially something there. I don't know, something along those lines. But like, anyway, so there wasn't like a lot of impact from this first wing is what I mean to say by having this discussion. But we have the new section coming out, and I want to talk about potentially some deck lists that could form now that. Yes.
Before you say that, we got an email from Echo Venom.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
He writes.
Oh, is this in relation?
It is. It is. He says, DRC, ladies and gentlemen, and the party has begun. Today, the release of the new adventure has taken place. For my question, I'd like to ask y'all what classes you think got the best and worst of the deal. Rank them if you'd like.
Oh, okay.
So it's pretty much related. Nice little segue. Bradway.
Classes? Okay, well,
let me talk about decks too.
Class cards. Give me a second to look at class cards.
Yeah.
So I think deck wise, the deck that got the most is Beast Druid. Beast Druid got offered 2 incredibly powerful effects. One is a solid 1-drop to allow it to curve out, which is what Beast Druid wants to do anyways, as of right now at least. And then Menagerie Warden, which is arguably one of the best, if not the best, cards out of this set. The second best, I would say, if we were gonna like rank them by scale, in my opinion, is probably either Shaman or, let me look through the cards real quick to make sure. Shaman or Mage maybe got the second best. Okay. Warlock I would put up there too. Okay, let me run through why I think Shaman potentially got the best. Maelstrom Portal is really strong, and Spirit Claws is a very strong effect. Like it's a 1-mana Fiery War Axe that has 3 charges if you can design your deck around it.
Right.
Effectively. And like, yeah, you're going to use one of the Spirit Claws attacks for one attack, but when you're using it for 1 attack, you want to use it for 1 attack. Like you're just like, okay, I need to hit this thing and kill it. Because one of the issues that Shaman has had in the past, at least a mid-range Shaman deck has had in the past, is it doesn't have ways to ping. And so it doesn't have easy ways to like make effective trades and get like as much value as possible. Because it's all about board control with mid-range Shaman.
Okay.
And so if even just having a 1/3 weapon ready to go, it really helps that deck out. And I really think the mid-range Shaman deck is among the best things that got, like it got one of the best boosts out of the whole entire set. The other thing, the reason I say Mage as a potential one is because I think Medivh's Valet is incredibly powerful, and Fireland's Portal has a lot of utility in certain matchups or certain decks. And then I also put Warlock there because Warlock basically got a sort of like a discard zoo, the disco zoo, if you will, the party zoo. So there's another variant now on a deck that was already popular. And while I don't think that like they're the most powerful cards ever, they actually like they really focus towards Warlock, like being able to be kind of sneaky in a sense on ladder, because you don't know if they're playing stock zoo at first or if they're playing discard zoo, and that may change the way that you play, because you might be like, do they have a Soulfire? Do they have 2 Soulfires? Am I going to get Fistadraxis? Am I going to get, like, and so it just changes. It makes it harder to design a deck that specifically combats what Zoo's doing. Like, that makes Zoo stronger in the tournament format. It makes Zoo potentially stronger because there's more unknowns and less knowns when it comes to deck construction now.
Sure.
The other class that I think really got something very powerful was Hunter. I think Hunter got exactly what Hunter wanted. I don't know if Hunter got the best out of it, but Hunter got Kindly Grandmother, and it's exactly what they wanted. It makes consistency with Barnes, which is coming out in the next set, which we'll talk about in here in a little bit. And then it also gives consistency with Prince Malkazir. Is that how? What's the name of the?
Yeah.
No, not Prince Malkazir. What's the name of that card? It's the Hunter Legendary that nobody plays right now. That triggers your Death Rattle effect. Prince Hohoran. Yeah. Prince Hohoran. So Princess Hohoran. Princess Hohoran is a 5-mana 6/5 that says, it's a legendary. It says battle cry, trigger a friendly minion's death rattle effect. And so Kindly Grandmother is a kind of a death rattle effect you don't want to kill. And so Princess Hohoran is able to potentially give you better ways to trigger death rattle. On top of that, you have now potentially enough death rattle effects to make Prince Hohoran better, to make Barnes playable in this deck. So there's a lot to be said about Hunter now, because what Hunter needed was a good way to play something on 2 and then curve out into 3. And until like now, they haven't really had an insanely powerful 2-drop. They've just had like solid 2-drops that are weak in certain matchups. Like Rogue, for instance, can just backstab all the 3/2s that you put out. So I don't know. I really feel like Hunter got a lot, but I don't know if it really improves Hunter that much. That's why I don't put it at the top. So I guess that being said, the order I would put it in is Druid, Mage or Shaman, and then Warlock, and then after that I would say Hunter, and after that probably not really Warrior. We got nothing really. I mean, maybe the Warrior cards are okay.
Does it need anything?
Not really. It's probably for the better.
Right.
Paladin, I suppose, after that, because they got Ivory Knight and Nightbane Templar has potential to build a deck around it.
Right.
And then I would say like Priest and then Warrior. That's right. I said Priest got better things than Warrior potentially.
I know I'm crazy.
It
doesn't mean the deck got better.
No, it doesn't. Well, I don't know. I was talking about this with some people earlier, and we think that Onyx Bishop has the potential to like push it into push Priest out of tier 4 of like 4 and into like tier 3, maybe even tier 2 if there's an Onyx Bishop build. Because Onyx Bishop has a lot of potential. It's just a very build around me card, which means that there's really only one Priest deck, that fits into it. Or maybe there's like 2 Priest decks and one's good and one's just absolutely atrocious. Like the Purify Priest deck might not be good, but it might be the better version. And in that case, there might be like a tier 2, tier 3 build, for Priest potentially for laddering purposes. So it didn't get much, but it did get something as compared to Warrior, which in my opinion got, the worst card in the whole entire set in Protect the King. I think it's worse than Purify, personally. Yeah. But that's whatever. That's my own opinion, I suppose. We'll let time tell if I'm completely insane in relations to that comment. And then lastly, it also got, like Iron Forge Portal, which is okay. And it does gain you armor, so it's not like terrible. And then Fool's Bane, which is, again, okay. It fits more into like a Tempo Warrior list, like maybe like Dragon Warrior wants it as a one of, but again, it's okay. It's not great. So again, I don't think they really got something that really just benefits them that bad or that much. However, some of the Warrior cards will see play just because, like Fool's Bane will probably see play just because there's so many Warrior decks out there. Right. Yeah. So those are the class cards. And to answer Echo Venom's question in whole. Yeah. Like that was a really detailed explanation of that question.
Echo Venom, never say we never answered a question from you.
Yes.
From you for you. We answered for you the question from you. There we go.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what I think about that. This particular week, do you have any other insight on that, Mike, that we want to talk about real quick?
No, I'm still up in the air with. I mean, your list I basically agreed with, but as far as do I have any Silent Knights or Trogdors or Trogzor kind of? Yeah, that card's coming. It's going to completely change the meta. I don't. I don't. This set, and we kind of talked about it last week. I don't think this set's lackluster. I mean, it is. There's no power creep, but I don't think
it's not Noxramas.
It's not a. but I'm saying we don't need it. I mean,
yeah, we don't need Noxramas.
Do we need the meta to change? Yes. Do we need power creep? No. I'm glad.
No, it's actually good if the set's bad because in 2 years we can depower the format.
Right.
You know, like once all the powerful cards like Reno disappear, we can depower the game a little bit, and that allows for some more potential design space.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, it's fair enough. Okay, so this week's set release it'll actually be tomorrow when we record this, but I believe it'll maybe be out before we get this published, but nonetheless. This week's is in my opinion the most important set release for the whole entire thing. It's got the best card in the whole entire set in it. In my opinion, well, it's either that or Maelstrom Portal are the best cards. We'll see. Actually, no, this is the best card because it's in neutral. But it has one of the best, if not the best cards in the entire set in it. And that is Barnes. Barnes will be out on this upcoming set. And so I want to quickly talk about what Barnes does, why Barnes, in my opinion, is the doctor for. We quickly touched on in the set review. I've quickly talked about it a number of times, but I want to give a quick, an in-depth analysis on Barnes as a whole. Barnes is nuts.
Well, and there's been a lot of people arguing back and forth about this card, and like obviously the god is or the god hand is you summon a 1/1 Ragnaros, like turn 4.
That's really good.
But it's the consistency. I know that's what people are saying. I don't know. So what do you think?
Okay.
Obviously you like it. What's the deal?
Okay, so Barnes on its face surface, let's assume it has no abilities and all it is a 3/4 that summons a 1/1.
Mm-hmm.
That is the equivalency of a Chillwind Yeti worth of stats. Slightly worse than a Chillwind Yeti because a 1/1 dies to a lot of hero powers. So you're just left with a 3/4 in the late game. So it's slightly worse than a Chillwind Yeti in the late game, right? So there's not quite as good there. But that is a very minimal downside to just have a 4/5 basically on 4. That's fine. The body is fine. So if we look at the body, it's fine. Now we can start designing decks that fit with it. So the obvious ones, I'm going to run through every single thing that I believe fits with Barnes. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is where I'm going to be building with Barnes first. So there's a long laundry list. Let's start from the top. Hunter. Hunter is one of the easiest spots for Barnes potentially. It may not see play in the death rattle hunter list because the list might be just too tight to fit it in there.
You think so?
But
even just one of them?
I don't really think so.
Okay.
I really think Barnes is fine.
I'm not arguing. I'm just wondering.
No, I'm thinking it's fine.
Okay.
I think it's fine because you get access to. So let's think about this. Like a bad Barnes would be like hit your fiery bat and you've got a 3/4.
Sure. Right.
You got a Chillwind Yeti that does 1 random damage. Yeah. Right. So that's the downside of it. Right. Then now that we have Kindly Grandmother coming out in this set too, you can, or in this wing, you can run Kindly Grandmother and you can hit that off your Barnes, which is just absolutely the exact same thing as casting the card. So it's like basically you get a 3/4 plus you get a Kindly Grandmother. So that one's okay. When you get to the 3-mana minions, we're kind of in this weird position at 3 now where you may not want to even run a 3-drop besides Animal Companion, which is not a minion, it's a spell. So you don't have to run like a bad card there that might get hit your Barnes,
Okay.
Then we get to the 4 slot, and then this is where you can hit something bad potentially. You could run Houndmasters, which are not going to be good because they're going to be 1/1s and they're not beasts. But you can also run Infested Wolf, which is it literally is a 1/1 that spits out 2 more 1/1s afterwards. So it becomes like a Chillwind Yeti that has Haunted Creeper attached to it.
Okay.
is the way to look at it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so then we keep moving up the scale. After that, you can get Stranglethorn Tiger, which is kind of meh if you want to run a Stranglethorn Tiger,
Right.
but it's okay. You can also get Prince Huron or whatever, which is, again, not great, but it's whatever. You have to have a couple bad spots in it. But if you can limit the amount of bad, that's great for you in the long term.
Oh,
and then when you get to 6, that's really where it shines in the Hunter decks, is with Savannah Highmane. And so I really feel like it fits solid in a curve out mid-range Death Rattle like beast Hunter deck. Like, just that's really where it's going to fit the best in the Hunter shells. And that's kind of one of the more obvious slots that people are expecting it to fit into. So next class I'll talk about is Paladin. So I think that in the Paladin class, actually let's jump back to Druid first, because I want to talk about it in Druid before I devolve to something else within Paladin, because there's more explanation that can be. It makes more sense in the Druid to discuss it this way. But there are a number of cards that this synergizes really well that Druid's able to play. For instance, the one you mentioned, Mike, was Ragnaros, right?
Right.
So with Ragnaros, it works really well because you're happy to get a 1/1 Ragnaros that does 8 random damage. So it's effectively a Chillwind Yeti that does 8 random damage, and then they have to kill the Ragnaros next turn.
Yeah.
Like, it must die. So if you're already ahead, or if the Ragnaros kills something, it just keeps you ahead. You're not going to fall behind there. But the one thing about Druid, and why I think it might fit really well in a potential Druid lineup or build, is that since you already have Yogg Druid, you can run the Wisp of the Old Gods Yogg deck instead of running like the Ancient of War Yogg deck, because you don't really want to hit an Ancient of War. It's just like a 1/1. But if you have Wisp of the Old Gods in your deck, you can start building your deck to have only cards that have positive synergy at the end of your turn. So I think of things like Ysera fitting in there. You have access to Malygos at this point because of it, which is crazy to say, but you could run Malygos in it because you're already a spell heavy deck. And if you run a 1 of Malygos and you hit it off your Barns, you can just swipe the whole board in the mid to late game. And not only that, but it's not too terrible to have a Malygos in your build. So it's a potential thing. So Ysera, Malygos, those fit relatively well in it. You could have, as we mentioned before, Ragnaros. You can still run a Sylvanas, which is really strong. You can run a Cairn Bloodhoof, which is really strong.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of good top-end deck options available to you as the Druid player. So that being said, let's hop over to Paladin, where the slot that it fits best with in Paladin is probably a Death Rattle deck, right? Because it's just Death Rattle and Barnes is really, really, really good, because it's going to give you an extra copy of one of your Death Rattles that is in your Inzoth Paladin deck list, and it's going to give you if you build the deck correctly, it's going to give you potentially 2 Tyrians, right? So it can increase your Tyrian counts, which is really strong, or potentially increase your Ragnaros counts, like Ragnaros Lightlord. Like, you're going to have a second one effectively and gain 8, or Ragnaros Firelord. You have 2 potentially. There's a lot of really top end good heavy threats to fit in that. And not only that, but when you think about the downside in the Inzoth deck, like what creature that I think of is like Acolyte of Pain, but that's not even that bad. Like,
it's card draw.
Yeah, it's a Chillwind Yeti that draws a card.
Right.
Like, well,
yeah.
Like, how's that terrible? You know, like, that's absolutely fine. So it fits really well there. The other downside card I think of is like Wild Pyromancer. But if you hit a Wild Pyromancer, or like, let's say you're looking, like, if you're playing the Control Shell and you're like, man, I really need to hit like a Wild Pyromancer out of my deck, and I know there's 2 still in there, and I have a Barnes in hand. It's like, or I could hit Tyrion, and Tyrion saves me. It's like, you know what? Let's play the Barnes first. We'll see what happens. Oh, I hit it. Cool. Equality. And then at that point, Equality Wild Pyromancer there's more ways to create redundancy, which, while it's kind of like a gamble to like roll the dice and try and hit the Wild Pyro Equality or off from your Barnes, it does give you the option to have that available. It gives you more Wild Pyromancers sometimes, and that's really strong for them. So even the downsides on it are really good. And not only that, but like the absolute downside on it is Doomsayer. And if you get an 1/1 Doomsayer, it basically says, here's a 3/4 and you gain 4 life. Because they have to, like, or maybe we'll say 3 life. Because more times than not, like, let's say it's Hunter, they're going to use their Eaglehorn Bow charge to attack it. Or they're going to use one of their minions to attack it and kill off the 1/1 Doomsayer. So there's a lot of utility there. So those are kind of like the classes where I think naturally people thought about where it would fit relatively well right off the bat. But then we get into some of these other ones where there's a lot of weirder synergies with Barnes. The other one, I'll actually not talk about this one till second to last because it's another deck I'm considering playing. But okay, so we'll hop over to Mage then. Mage has utility with it, and there's a lot of cards that actually fit in the Mage decks that'll be good with it. So you can still run Ragnaros in those kind of decks. You're happy to get an Archmage Antonidas because if you cast Barnes after turn 4, you can just get insane Archmage Antonidas value. Right. Just absolutely insane if you can get an Archmage Antonidas off from it because you could just generate like 1 million fireballs at that point. Like it's just insane what you can do with it at that point. So Archmage Antonidas is insane with it. The other card that really stands out to me that has been a very fringe playable card before is Ronin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, most people don't even know what Ronin is, so I'll quickly run through it. Ronin's an 8-mana 7/7 that has Death Rattle. It says add 3 copies of Arcane Missiles to your hand. So if you can get a Ronin, and you, not only that, but you want your Ronin to die, so you can get all those Arcane Missiles already. So if you already naturally want it to die, and you just put a 1/1 Ronin out there, it's pretty freaking insane. Another card that doesn't see much play that's in Mage is Anomalous. Do you remember Anomalous?
Yep.
It's an 8-mana 8/6 that says Death Rattle, deal 8 damage to all minions. So you can have board wipes effectively in your deck with it now.
Right.
So there's a lot of utility in it. So I think of like a control mage might want it. There might be some sort of tempo mage that wants it as well if there's like a more top-end heavy tempo mage. But there is a lot of really good potential top-end cards to go with it. That being said, there aren't a lot of like insane things to go with it. But a lot of them, like Flame Waker, hitting a 1/1 Flame Waker and then just casting a bunch of extra spells afterwards is still really strong. So there are just, like I said, there's just a lot of utility pieces. Like Mana Worm's even okay because the Mana Worm grows. Like you just play Mana Worm and then make it into a 3/1. Like it's still absolutely okay there. But yeah, like I said, it has a lot of utility with a lot of classes. So we'll move on to the next classes, and this is where it starts getting a little bit more interesting. So the next class I want to talk about is Shaman. Shaman, there is, I missed something with Paladin. Let me actually backtrack. There's also like the bubble Paladin decks that it could fit in really well because they have all their basically all their bubbles. So that's another spot to really fit into it. So like Secret Paladin with a bunch of, like bubble minions, like what is it? Argent Squire and what's the charge one? Argent Horse Rider. There's definitely a lot of good bubble minions that fit into the class as a whole. Even Silent Knight might even be good in that kind of a deck because Barnes just gives you, it's basically a Chowan Yeti with a 1/1 with Divine Shield. So it has upside. It's not great there, but it still has utility and you can fit in. If you're playing Tyrion, it's a good card to play in any deck that's playing Tyrion because you just get the option to potentially have an extra Tyrion. Okay, so now that's been said. Let's move on to Shaman. The thing that I like about it with Shaman is one of the inconsistencies with the Malygos combo Shaman deck has been that in the past, the way you did it was you cheated the Malygos into play, either with a Farsight or a card that has rotated now. I can't even think of the name of it, but basically cheated into play for cheaper. This is a way to potentially cheat it into play for cheaper. And while it is a little bit inconsistent there, it does have potential in that deck list. Other than that, I think Shaman doesn't really get the most out of it. But what's really cool about it is the fact that we might be able to see a Shaman deck that wants that. And if that's the case, then we might actually see some sort of combo Shaman shell. So kind of cool there. Okay. Probably one of the weakest of the classes with it, though, nonetheless. The other class that gets really benefited from it is Rogue. And while you would say, oh, how does Rogue get benefit from it? Well, it's less because of all the valuable Death Rattle cards like Tomb Pillager and Zeril, and the fact that you can hit like Malygos off from it if you're on a Mali combo build or something. That's not like the biggest factor with it. The biggest factor with it is, in my opinion, is Shadow Step. And this is one of the deck lists that I'm going to be playing around with the most, for sure, is a Shadow Step Rogue deck with Barnes. So I think of like Reno Rogue, for instance, might want it, or like a Shadow Step mid-range deck that's trying to abuse the Shadow Step because you can then bounce the Reno back after it comes down as a 1/1 and utilize it. And as it's enter the battlefield effect. Now that's not the way you really want to do it. But the thing is that if you can build a Shadow Step into your Reno deck and increase the number of like good cards that fit with it, like Tomb Pillager, Ragnaros, all the other cards, I think you can potentially create a lot of synergy in Rogue. And I really feel like Rogue is one of the classes that benefits the most from it. I mean, like, shoot, hitting a Gadgets and Auctioneer for 4 mana, that's a 1/1, is still absolutely insane. The other card that goes really good with it in Rogue, and again, it's not the minions necessarily, in my opinion, it's the spells that go really well with it, is Conceal. So if you hit a Ragnaros off from it and then go Conceal, you get 2 8/8 juggles. So your Conceal is now protect my board. It'll attack face the next turn, and then I get another Ragnaros juggle. Like, it's so good. Barnes is nuts. I really think Barnes is nuts. Okay, so after that, I'm going to talk about Warlock quickly. I think Warlock doesn't really benefit heavily from it either. They're one of the classes that doesn't really get much. And then Warrior, which also doesn't really get too much. Like, hitting an Armor Smith is okay, I suppose. Hitting, like, I don't know, like a Core Chronically is meh, but it's okay. And then, like, that's about it. There just really isn't like that many things that go great in Warrior with it. So those are the classes that I just don't think really warrant too much discussion, is kind of like Warlock, Shaman, Warrior, which is good because those are the better classes. And so it's showing that these slightly worse classes are going to be able to abuse it more effectively. And that's good because that helps create potential diversity in the format.
Right.
So here it is. This is the class that I think potentially benefits the most from Barnes, is Priest.
Really?
It's a bold claim. Bold claim. But I really feel like one of the beauties of Barnes is the ability to create consistency with certain decks. Now, I don't know if this is going to be good enough, and it probably isn't, but nonetheless, we'll discuss it. There is a Burst Priest deck, right? And it runs Prophet Velen for its combo piece. So it's because what Prophet Velen does is it doubles the damage and healing of your spells and hero power. So what you do is the combo deck is basically runs its combo pieces are like Embrace the Shadow or Akanai Soul Priest. One of those two is the enabler. Mm-hmm. And then from there it uses Flash Heal, and it uses I can't think of the name of the card.
Mind Blast?
It uses Flash Heal and Mind Blast. Yeah. Mind Blast. That's what the other one is. It's able to use both of those to burst its opponent down and like hit him for 30. And that's really strong, the potential to just go, here's 30 damage. Especially if like Inzoth Paladin becomes more popular, it's going to be real strong there. But one of the issues with the deck before has been, in my opinion, is you only have one Prophet Velen, right? And the Malygos wasn't good enough because Malygos takes 2 turns to set up.
Right. Because
even when you Emperor Therasin with Malygos in this deck, you're not able to go Malygos, Emperor Therasin into Malygos and still cast more than just like 1 Mind Blast and like 1 Flash Heal, which only hits for like 20. It doesn't hit for the full 30. So it's not as strong as Prophet Velen. But if you're running Barnes all of a sudden and you're a creature low build, you can probably design the deck to have a 50% chance to hit off of Barnes, a Prophet Velen, or Malygos. And that doesn't seem super strong for comboing because it's random. But one of the things that's really nice about it is if you can combo at that point, you win the game, obviously, because you can be like, oh, cool, I've got a Mind Blast, I've got a Flash Heal, and I've got this, like Akanai Soul Priest, and I'm on turn 9, let's go for it. But in this deck, I don't really think Barnes is played on 4. I think it's played on like turn 9 or later. But if you're able to sandbag it all the way to turn 9 and you do hit and you don't have a combo kill yet, you could still have a Holy Nova, and then Holy Nova just literally clears the board for you and completely steals the board for you entirely. And you just are like, at that point, it's like, okay, now you have to kill my Malygos. I cleared your board, and now they spend some resources or time killing off the 1/1 Malygos, and you can go from there. Additionally, if you wait till turn 9 or 10, you can also, from time to time, you're going to have a Power Word Shield on it, or that you can cast on it, and that allows you to cycle further depth deep in your deck. And additionally, and although Power Word Shield is generally used early, additionally it gives you the ability to get out of range of hero powers, and so you can use the Power Word Shield to potentially protect the 1/1 version of your creature that you've got out there. So I really do feel like there's a lot of potential utility for Barnes in a combo Priest deck, and that's where that and Rogue are the 2 spots that I really want to test it right off the bat. Like, that's where I really feel like it potentially shines. And the beauty of it is in the Priest deck is now instead of just having to run Malagos or just having to run Prophet Velen and saying you can't fit the slots for the other one, it potentially means you want both and you want Barnes, because if you draw one or the other, you can get the other one off of Barnes in the late game potentially. So I just really feel like that might be the decks for it. So like that's a comprehensive review of what Barnes does without like going even like further into it, because there's so many possibilities. Like I could just keep naming cards over and over and over that it synergizes pretty well with. But like the fact that it fits in approximately 7 of the 9 classes pretty effectively is pretty darn good with me. Being Warlock and Warrior probably being the worst, and then Shaman being the third worst, and Shaman being kind of like negligibly okay with it. But at least 5 or 6 of the classes are going to want this card. And that means that this card will see tons of play and is going to shape this meta, in my opinion. This card is absolutely bonkers. So I just wanted to go through that. I just wanted everyone to know how good that card is and why this is. If you're going to invest in getting half of like this new adventure, and you're like, I don't have all the gold to purchase all sets, get through Wing 2 at least. Wing 2 is going to be very, very impactful. And there's after that, it starts kind of like tapering off after that. And there's the only one that stands out to me that you'd want after that is in Wing 3 is Menagerie Warden. And then there's a couple other like pseudo playable cards after that. But like the biggest factor, in my opinion, is going to be Wing 2. And you should all try and get into Barnes or also get your Kindly Grandmothers if you can.
So that's where to spend your money.
Spend your money on that. That's the way to do it. That's where the money cards are at.
Big money.
Big money, no whammy. I mean, there's also some interesting cards in this particular wing as well. Onyx Bishop for Priest, which is fine. It's gonna be good. Arena got Pompous Thespian, which is like a 3/2 for 2 with taunt, which is kind of cool that they got access to that. Kind of changes the turn or the format a little bit. Hunter, which is kind of struggling in Arena, got Kindly Grandmother, and in Constructed, it got Kindly Grandmother. There's now Arcane Giant, which is the one that reduces based on the number of spells you cast this game. So it kind of synergizes with this sort of spell-heavy Yogg deck, potentially synergizes with a Barnes deck that doesn't want to have low-end threats, and it wants big things like Arcane Giants to potentially hit. Well, I mean, it does suck to hit Arcane Giant. It does like you want to try and reduce the amount of low end stuff you have, so you want more spells in your low end. So there's a lot of like utility in this particular wing, and I really think this wing will be the wing that changes the meta.
Of all of them, you think this one's the biggest?
This is the biggest in my opinion. Okay. Yes, and that's why I just wanted to give such a comprehensive review on Barnes. I'm really telling you guys, I'm like boldly claiming this is Dr. 4 right now. This card's very, very, very good. Yes.
We think better than Pilot Shredder?
No. Maybe. The problem is you can run 2 Pilot Shredders. You can only run 1 Barnes.
Right. Touche.
Yeah. If you could run 2 Barnes, I think it'd be on the same power level. But this is almost an auto-include 4-drop in every single deck.
Okay.
Decks will be built around this card.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, decks that aren't built around it will run slightly different lists because it wants to maximize its Barnes potential. Like it always wants to have like better than 30% or something, or like better than 50% to hit good things, like and it's not too hard to do that with just some slight tweaks to your deck list.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the word, yo. That's what's happening in the next set.
Well, anything else?
Yes. Nothing else for me. I just want to, again, guys, this is a time to play Hearthstone. If you have been not playing much Hearthstone, now's the time to get back into it. It's going to be a fun week.
Nice. Okay. All right. Well, that'll be it. Moving forward, for all you playing at home, got to get the trifecta at least once an episode. All right. Well, that has been episode 78 of the Death Rattle Crew. Don't forget you can follow us at www.deathrattlecrew.com. Bradford Lee, where can people find you?
As always, twitch.tv/Bradford Lee.
And I got to know, what did you socially eat this week?
Nothing. I've been failing you on the social eating.
Brad, I'm upset. I want to do it.
Sorry.
I just like to eat.
I mean, I will once I get a second webcam going. I'm gonna start social eating more commonly once I get that going.
Nice.
It's on the like 2-month horizon. Soon.
Echo Venom says, worst episode ever. Brad Stradamus.
Aw, feels Brad, man.
Man. That's brutal. All
Totally
right.
brutal. You know how I can make it better?
How?
I could read the lyrics to Skilo's I Wish. You ready?
Let's do it. Just do it. I'm going to stop the music in the podcast right now.
Wait, you're going to end the podcast right now?
Yeah, but I'm going to end with this.
Oh, okay. If you guys don't know this classic hip hop hit from the 1990s, here's your opportunity for me to reenact it in the greatest way possible. Here it is. I wish I was like 6'9" so I can get with Leoshi because she'll know me, but Yoshi's really fine. You know, I see her all the time, everywhere I go. And even in my dreams, I can scheme a way to make her mine because I know she's living fat. Her boyfriend's tall and he plays ball. So how am I going to compete with that? Because when it comes to playing basketball, I'm always last to be picked. And I can't even read the whole thing.
Oh
I want to skip to this part though. Why the jocks get the fly girls and me, I get the hood rats. I tell them scat, skittle, skabooble.
Who says that?
It's a great song. Because you know why he sings about it? Because he wants to be a little bit taller. He wishes he was a baller. He wish he had a girl who looked good. I would call her. I wish he had a rabbit in a hat with a bat and a 6'4" Impala.
Oh my God.
I can't believe I just added that to the podcast.
What is the rabbit? That's what I don't understand.
I don't know. The whole song's stupid.
And that bibbity boppity boop. Is that what he says? Bibbity boppity boop?
I don't. He says or he says scat, skittle, skabobble, skabobble.
Yeah,
that's the word, skabobble.
That's it.
He also makes up a bunch of other words throughout the whole song.
That's
hilarious,
skabobble though, bro.
Yep. That's all I gotta say today.
Oh my goodness. Well,
yep.
We will see you next week. Australia.
I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. Wish I had a girl who looked good. I would call her. Wish I had a rabbit and a bat with a cat and a 4 or 6 foot Impala. Or with a bat and a 6'4" Impala.
6'4" Impala.
Yeah, it's got to be a 6'4" Impala.
6'4". I don't even know.
Because the whole second lyric, or is it the third lyric? One of the whole parts is about how his car sucks so much that girls won't even look at him. Yeah, and he goes, "I got an 8-track and a spare tire in the back seat, but that's flat." That's literally the line. And then he tries to rhyme. He puts in it's so funny because it's like, I got an 8-track and a spare tire in the back seat, but that's flat. So like he adds in extra lyrics to make the rhyme work. And then the next line is, so see, I can even get a date. So what do you think of that? That's the line. So like, let me read this again. I got an 8-track and a spare tire in the back seat. That's where it should stop. That's how much not lyrically. Anyway, that's the way it works with that other line. But then he adds in but that's flat to make it rhyme. It's so ridiculous, that song. Skilo. Can we odd shot that? Oh God. That went from worst episode to best because of Brad Rapp. Damn it.
Rip.